Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Hollywood After Dark. It is Tuesday, the 12th of August, 2025. Today, we're going to be talking about Captain Jack Sparrow, the greatest pirate you've ever heard of. Is he coming back? Look, come coming back. We're also going to be talking about Shrek 5 getting delayed because apparently we can't have nice things. Superman PVOD date bumped up by 2 weeks. What's going on there at Warner Brothers? We're going to talk about that, especially profitability margins, because, you know, it's Hollywood After Dark. So let's fucking go. Yeah. Hey, everyone. How's it going? Welcome back to the show. Of course, it's scorching hot day here in Washington. This is the day to go to the theaters. I think I'm going to do that tonight. I think I'm going to sneak away and I'm going to go try to see Weapons. Had the opportunity. I'm just going to be honest. Last night, somebody sent me a link. They're like, hey, you want to watch Weapons? Here's a bootleg copy of it. And I checked out the quality, right? I looked at the quality of it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I don't know. Right? I don't know. I mean, like, this is one that I want to see, you know, like not in 4XD, which apparently is terrible according to some of the things I was reading online, but it's one that I definitely want to see, like, you know, in a theater setting with my drink, with my popcorn, and watch a movie, hopefully get under my skin and freak me out, which the sucky thing about horror movies, the older you get, is that, like, you watch them to feel that, right? You want to feel the way that you did when you watched them as a kid. You want to feel that cold sense of dread, the anxiety from the uncertainty of what you're watching. And it's so easy to predict how things are going to turn out these days because, you know, movies are a formula. Everything's a formula. Even I'm writing my own stories with a formula right now. But if you want to get, I'm going to pimp it a little bit. I'm going to link it in the video description. If you head on over to midnightpulp.substack.com, you can check out the first couple chapters of my first short story called The Dead Never Stop Talking. There's also a microfiction on there called Feed Me to the Algorithm. And I have another one that is coming out soon called A Price for Everything. That's a really twisted little short. And I'm just having a lot of fun writing these things. And these are all designed, by the way, to be cinematic and feeling. And so when you're watching them or you're reading them, I want you to envision a movie because that is ultimately what I am trying to do with this stuff. So that's my own little pimping for everything as we get into it. Because obviously, you know, look, this is a show to talk about movies, not to sell my own stuff. Even though if you guys want to support, you know, there are ways to do that. You can easily become a channel member. You know, you can head on over and become part of the Hollywood After Dark Premium, right? You can then get the Hollywood After Dark, which is tonight's live stream, which will be live, and then it will be a members only stream after the fact. So we'll be live. So if you catch this later, tonight we'll be talking about whatever goes on, watching trailers, having a good old time. But the best way to stay up to date on everything is to join the Discord. You can just pause the video here, take a snapshot of the QR code, and join up with the party. And everything else. Obviously, the community is always going to be free. Everything's going to be free. I just like talking with you guys. But Daddy also needs to feed his 4K UHD buying addiction. Arrow. We talked about that Arrow sale yesterday. I haven't pulled the trigger yet. So there's that. Also, another quick piece of housekeeping I need to get to. You might have noticed I posted a couple of the individual clips and whatever. I'm not going to do that. It floods the algorithm or it floods the feed. And more people just tend to listen to the podcast versus listening to the individual clips. I'm going to replace those with the reviews. I just feel that's like better for keeping things clean and organized and not flooding it with a ton of stuff you may not find interesting. So don't worry. There will be timestamps on this. You might have even skipped past this at this point, and that's entirely okay. That's entirely okay. So why don't we just get in to the main story? I'm not going to bury the lead. All right, let's talk about our boy Captain Jack. Captain Jack might be coming back. Saying here that Pirates of the Caribbean producer spoke to Johnny Depp about Jack Sparrow's return in Pirate 6. If he likes the part or the way it's written, I think he would do it. I don't think I'm going to go on limb. I'm just going to say this real quick. I don't think it's going to be if the script is good. Okay. I mean, look, what was it? The last On Stranger Tides and Dead Men Tell No Tales. Not bad movies. I enjoy them. I need to rewatch them. It's been a while. But I think we also need to like kind of remember that in the pantheon of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, they're not the Gore Verbinski films. those had a trilogy, and those were great, and everybody liked them. The other two made a lot of money. Obviously, Captain Jack is the drive, and I think that there was all the talk for all that time of having a Margot Robbie-led franchise and having other people come on board to try it out. I mean, anything could happen. But in this particular, situation, Disney seems to be kind of cozying up to Johnny Depp after cutting ties with him back in 2018, after the whole situation with Amber Heard. But then him winning that legal battle a couple years ago, it kind of reopened the door. The Gina Carano lawsuit victory from the other day, it's not even really a victory, but if they're going to be open to working with Gina Carano for posting after she posted like the stuff that she posted, Johnny Depp can probably make his way back. And I'm gonna say something wildly controversial that some of you are not gonna like. This kind of return to form is mostly brought on by the fact that Donald Trump is back in office. Don't shoot the messenger, but you guys can't deny that I'm right on this one. Okay. You guys can't deny that I'm right on this one. Look, the Pirates of the Caribbean films are movies that I love. Okay. The first movie I've seen, if I had to guess, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 65 times. And if you're probably going, what in the ever-loving fuck are you talking about? 65 times? Are you mental? I mean, obviously the answer to that is yes, but I worked at the drive-in. You guys know that, right? I worked at the drive-in for a long time. In the summer of 2003, we had Pirates of the Caribbean playing twice nightly with a co-feature of Finding Nemo. So I have seen Pirates of the Caribbean. I have seen Finding Nemo more times than I think I've seen my own children. And I love them both, right? I still love them both. I love those movies. Even Finding Nemo is a fucking classic. That movie never gets old, man. It just never gets old. It's so much fun to watch. The same with the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. And I think if they're able to go back and capture that again, right, then they'll definitely have a hit on their hands. I think the problem with the sequels, and I'm including the Gore Verbinski ones here, is that they tried too hard. I mean, not really, like, what was it? At World's End or whatever. The last one is so convoluted plot wise. Like, you have to watch Dead Man's Chest and World's End back to back in order to really get what's going on. Because that plot line is just, it's like a snaking river and you never really know where it's going to end up. So they're good, but it's like they really need to kind of like streamline it. And that's kind of what this is. This one's being listed as a bit of a soft reboot. So because it's being described as that, they're going to probably take it back to basics. But I'll tell you what fans want, okay? Fans don't need it. You go back to basics, absolutely fine. Do all that. Okay, have at it, Haas. We will all support you. But here's where you're going to fuck around. And if you fuck around, you're going to find out. At the end of the last movie, we got Orlando Bloom's return. And we got Davy Jones coming back. We got that damn cliffhanger. And if they don't pay that off, F that. They got to pay it off. Okay? They got to do it. If you're going to bring back Captain Jack, you got to bring back Will Turner. You got to bring back Elizabeth Turner. You got to bring back, you can't bring back, Barbosa because he's actually dead this time. But you could do something with that. Okay? And figure out a way to do it. Go to Terry Rossio. Be like, bro, we need you to come back on this and make it work. And even Bruckheimer says it kind of really depends on the script. Disney may or may not want to invest the money into it. I don't quite know. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. I do hope that they do, because I do want to see him come back. I want to see him get a bit of a redemption. And yeah, I think it's, everyone needs a second shot, right? Why not? Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. All right. So moving on, let's talk about this story that popped up yesterday, which I find to be kind of interesting. Alan Tudyk confirmed that he got dropped from the iRobot publicity tour after testing higher than Will Smith with test screening audiences, saying, "I was very upset." Now, the thing with this particular story that I find to be interesting is, he's upset because he says that like people didn't know he was in the movie. I knew he was in the movie, right? Like I knew that was a guy from A Knight's Tale. But then again, I kind of live and breathe this stuff, and I thought iRobot was awesome. iRobot was great. And, but I can see why he'd be upset. So if he was testing higher than Will Smith in 2004, I think, right? 2004 was when iRobot came out. If he was testing higher, this is Will Smith following the year before he had done Bad Boys 2. Okay. And then, there was like Independence Day, and there's, all the other Will Smith movies that were out there. I mean, maybe not so much Wild Wild West, but we can talk about that one at a later date. But when you think about it, Will Smith has said, like, he's got an ego. He has confirmed he's got an ego. Like, to him, opening up number 2 on the opening weekend is like a fate worse than death, which is why it was kind of funny, because he said that right before the release of After Earth back in 2013 that opened at number 3. So go figure on that one. But I think, like, Alan Tudyk is great, right? We know him now as so many iconic characters, right? My personal favorite is K2SO. And he brought that character. And then even playing Gary in the Superman movie, he was also kind of K2SO in that one as well. But he is very iconic in his voice acting and where he pops up, and everyone loves him. And so, yeah, like, I can see this kind of being the thing. And I would argue that it had a lot to do with Will Smith's ego, and I think Will Smith finding out that people were liking him, Alan Tudyk, a lot more, because the performance was so good, the mocap was so good, the voice acting was so good, it conveyed this human emotion on a robot, which is kind of funny because here we are with AI in 2025, and it conveys human emotion pretty well, but everyone can still pretty much know that it's a robot. And they were kind of like, this is also Isaac Asimov, so, it is what it is. But I feel like Will Smith, there might be other people we find out Will Smith ended up kind of shunning, kicking off of certain things because he wanted the spotlight. And that's unfortunate because this is it's a labor of love. There's an old saying in San Diego, in the filmmaking group there, that there is no I in filmmaking. It's a team effort, right? It's that whole thing. There's no I in team, but there is an I in meat pie, because meat being anagram of team, whatever. I need to watch Shaun of the Dead again. I'm just saying, it's a collaborative group effort, and the star is definitely a big part of that. But so is all your supporting characters, your supporting cast, your talent, your producers, your grips, your gaffers, your caterers, your transport people, right? Everyone puts in, right? Many hands make for light work is really what this boils down to. And but here it is all these years later. And you know what? Good on our boy Alan Tudyk. Good on Pirate Steve for knocking it out of the park. Good for him. Seriously, I'm really, really happy for him. Okay, moving on. Let's kind of touch upon a new show that's come out this last week that's apparently doing quite well, and that's Wednesday Season 2. The first part has debuted with 50 million views in 5 days, matching Season 1. Obviously, this information is not going to be directly, I think, maybe from Netflix. But this is what it says here. Wednesday, one of Netflix's biggest hits of all time, returned to the streamer with the second season on August 4th and racked up 50 million views in its first 5 days. That puts it right on par with the performance of Season 1 when it premiered in November of 22, 3 years later almost, my God. At the time, Netflix ranked its series based on hours viewed, and Wednesday debuted with 341.1 million hours in 5 days. But divided by Season 1's runtime of 6 hours and 49 minutes, that roughly translates to 50 million views. You see, this is all where it's kind of like, I don't want to say pseudoscience. It's more direct math than like the people who do box office predictions, and then even the people that run like Samba, Illuminate, Nielsen ratings, things along those lines. But again, it's doing quite well. But here's where it's interesting. And this is what's got me about this. This is why it's interesting to me. Because if it opened up 3 years later almost, shows you, for one, the staying power of the franchise. Okay, that thing was everywhere in 2022 and 2023. You had the Wednesday dance. You had all of this stuff happening. And it absolutely blew up. And it absolutely took over every facet of meme culture online. And that is what kept it going. But 3 years later, it premiered its first half of the season with just about as many views, which means that people were definitely going back to it. But I'm also not hearing anyone really talk about it. I'm not seeing the memes. I'm not seeing the commentary. It's not popping up. It hasn't infected the culture like it did originally, but that's okay. Neither has Stranger Things. I mean, Stranger Things, when it's back, people talk about certain elements of it, but again, you're never going to go back to the hype from the first season. And that's a lot of shows. Game of Thrones was able to build upon itself as it ratcheted up the tension, ratcheted up the character deaths that were done very violently and were very permanent, and that was one of the things that people liked about it was you never know who's going to live, who's going to die. No one's safe. Stranger Things, everyone's safe. Wednesday, I would argue most people are probably safe, right? It's more YA focused than something like Game of Thrones, but it does show you that there is a lot of love. There is a lot of staying power within that franchise, even though it hasn't seemed to like make its way into the cultural zeitgeist again. However, at the same time, I have to pose the question, could it actually do it? Is there a way for it to actually get into that cultural zeitgeist? Because I don't think that it can. You hit maximum in 2022 and 2023, and it's been a couple years. And while those stuff is memeable and referenceable and all that jazz, that was done organically. If they try to force in a moment in this one that's going to end up being something that feels forced, you're going to lose it, and you're going to lose your audience in the process. So just give us something good. And I hear this is pretty good. I'm going to watch it with my family. Probably tomorrow we'll give it a watch. We enjoyed the first season quite a bit. We're just, like I said, going through a heat wave right now, and it's like maybe tonight we'll just plant our butts in front of the fans and watch some Netflix, watch some Wednesday, and enjoy ourselves. That could be fun. That could be a fun thing to do, right? That could be a pretty solid thing to do. So, all right. I want to chit chat now about something maybe a wee bit controversial that might get a couple people get their feathers ruffled. Okay, because it's a very big conversation. So Superman, we're talking about that again. Superman ends up hitting the physical or digital release, on August 15th. So just this Friday. So they announced it on Tuesday. The movie drops digitally on Friday, which means it's going to be flooded completely over the internet with, we're talking pirated clips, GIFs, screen grabs, everything. And I think this is done on purpose. Last weekend, Superman pulled in $8 million. It was down at number 6 in the top 10, over $331 million gross domestically. And it's eyeing, from what some reports have said, an end game of about $690 million at the high end, which I find to be really interesting. We're going to get to that here in a second, because this subject kind of is going to be a beefy one, because it does talk about James Gunn as well. So one of the funny things about this particular release is that people aren't really happy about it. Okay. Superhero Hype here has an article titled "Superman's Early Digital Release is Killing Long Tail Box Office Potential." The thing is, it's not. It's not. The movie is, I don't want to say it's dead internationally, but it's not doing great internationally. It hasn't touched internationally quite well. It was the movie of July. Let's be fair. Fantastic Four has not done as well as they would have liked. This movie has been long in the tooth in regards to its profitability for box office returns, which is fantastic. But we're also now getting into the middle of August, which means that people are going out of town for the last couple weeks of summer. We have school starting in many places. So kids are already back in school. So those midday numbers are going to start to drop. The weekend numbers are going to start to drop. This is what's known as the August and September and part of October slump. And I say this as a person who worked in movie theaters for a very long time. You know when it starts to slow down. Something like Weapons is something that's drawing people to the theaters. And I think, if anything, Warner Brothers realizes that they don't want to try to double dip, because Warner Brothers is putting out Superman, Warner Brothers is putting out Weapons, and they probably want to try to get as much out of Weapons as they possibly can, because it's going to have a higher profitability margin than, let's say, Superman. Superman had a budget of $225 million, where I think Weapons had like $39 million budget, or something along those lines. So it's definitely like already profitable. But when we talk about this idea of the digital release killing long tail box office potential, let's see here. Okay. So it sets a bad precedent, what they're saying. And then they use this 2007 movie Firehouse Dog, starring Josh Hutcherson and Bruce Greenwood. But okay, he says he's going somewhere with this. So let's go along for the ride. He says the movie was released in theaters in April 2007 and then arrived on physical media in July. I remember renting the movie from Blockbuster shortly after it became available. A family friend stopped by, and upon seeing the Firehouse Dog DVD sitting on our table, said something along the lines of, "You can already rent that? I saw that in theaters just 4 months ago. I remember when you had to wait a year to rent something." Yeah, that was 2007, bro. It used to be theaters, and then it would take about 6 months to get the home video, and then about another 7 months or so to get to cable. Okay, it was a pretty straightforward process. Okay, you want to talk about, like, I remember in 2009, G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra, released in August of 2009, and it was on home video by the first week of November. They wanted to get it out for Black Friday shopping. That's why they did it. Okay, that was a 3-month turnaround. So this movie, Firehouse Dog, in 2007, not really what I would call like the impetus to hinge your argument on. Now, he says here, granted, this family friend was on the elderly side. I don't remember having to wait a year to rent something like that, she recalled, but 4 months, less than 20 years ago, a 4-month timeline was enough to get a reaction to the people. No, it wasn't. No, not really. Not really. Not what you might think. Movies, were coming out. You're talking about movies in like the golden age of DVDs. All right, while movies were doing good in theaters, they were doing even better on home video. They could experiment more. Matt Damon has talked openly about this. So they wanted to get the films out as fast as humanly possible. That's why they used to release those 2-disc special editions that would be maybe a couple dollars more than getting the regular one that had all the bonus features, because people were buying them like hotcakes. That is until Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire decided they wanted to charge over $20 for those 2-disc special edition sets, which is completely crazy. All right, so this whole thing here, it's kind of a BS argument, to be honest with you. I needed an article, I kind of grabbed it, my bad. But here's the thing, and this is where, again, it's going to probably be a little spicy for some people, okay? It's fine. Universal is what Warner Brothers is going to be pulling from here, okay? Jurassic World Rebirth hit digital last week. It's already crossed over $800 million worldwide. Superman is not going to do that. Superman right now is at like 578 or something. It might get another $92 million and pass Man of Steel, but it's not going to do it domestically. It's not doing it domestically, and it's not going to do it internationally. So when I say might, I mean that might is like a very big air quoted might. You know what I mean? Like, do not take this seriously. Grain of salt, might. At this point, there's no real pathway for it to beat Man of Steel. And it's not that it needs to. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But what I wanted to show you guys was that the weird thing about this particular release of Superman, the home video release, was actually leaked August 1st. On August 1st, it was announced that through one website here, this website, I forget what it's called, but they had said that it was going to be August 15th. And this was out there, and then everyone was kind of like denying it. Then, of course, you had the kind of semi-official release of August 25th, which would have put it at the 45-day window versus the 30-day window or 35-day window, which is what this Superman release is. But the idea there is that this was already said, right? So this was already being talked about almost 2 weeks ago. It got out there, just not officially. And because James Gunn has been able to kind of gaslight people into how to approach all this stuff, it ends up being something that people just kind of ran with and were like, oh, it's fake news, fake news, fake news. This just goes to show you that they already saw the slowing in the trajectory, and they wanted to find a way to capitalize on whatever hype they could do that's left and get this thing out there. So let me explain. So the movie's still in theaters. It's not going anywhere this Friday. It will probably gross, I'd say maybe $3 to $4 million. Maybe more, maybe less. I don't know. It will do that, but maybe more. And let me explain. It might do more because, like I said at the beginning of the segment, if this movie, when it hits the web and it starts getting spread around and memed on and the video clips start spreading, people might then get a renewed interest on social media, especially on Twitter and TikTok. And then they might go see the movie. That might give it an actual bump. Or those people might go and buy the movie. So that money that the theaters get per ticket, let's say the average price right now is $10.75, meaning that they pull in $5.35 a ticket. Well, the movie came out a month ago today, or yesterday. So now that might actually be dropped. It might actually only be getting like 30% on a ticket sale versus 50%, because as time goes on, theaters start making more of that money. And that's largely where the long tail box office profits come from, is the amount of money that these theaters make at the price of the ticket being the same, but them getting a higher cut of it. So if they're already in that particular category, where they're already now down to a different percentage, whatever, between the theater and the studio. Yeah, releasing it on digital is then going to put more money directly in the studio's pocket, with only having to pay for the hosting fees and like the minor transaction fee that iTunes and Amazon and Vudu and Fandango, whatever the fuck, right? Whatever those guys do, that's what they're going to, that's all they got to pay. And that's pennies compared to the split of the movie ticket price that Warner Brothers is paying the theaters. So that's why they're doing this. Is it going to kill the theaters? No, the movie's already on its way out. It's already on its way out. It's not, so they've got to try to recoup it whatever they can, the best that they can before the end of the quarter, which is coming up. And that's why they're doing it. So you have to keep that in mind, right? This is kind of how the business works. That's a lot of what happens. Now, I want to kind of, not end today. I kind of lost where I was going with all this. Okay. But end this segment by talking about James Gunn and why, quite frankly, James Gunn needs to, kind of like shut the fuck up. So James Gunn has a really big problem. And as much as I like James Gunn and I love James Gunn and I champion for James Gunn, I also am not going to sit there and be a sycophant. I will criticize him where it is required because he needs to shut the fuck up. Like, seriously. So Superman director James Gunn hits back at claims that the movie needs to make $650 million to be considered a success. All right, that happened over on Threads, and he was basically saying here that it is absolutely false. Anyone saying that doesn't have an understanding of the film business, and we would be idiots to make a first in a franchise film that would need to make that much to be profitable. I mean, are we idiots, or are we not running off the general consensus that the budget of the movie is $225 million before a reported $125 million marketing spend? Okay. And then there was a report saying that it could have cost upwards of $300 million in total, $330 million in total, sorry. These numbers get tossed around. We have to remember that. They do get tossed around. James Gunn is fully aware of the things that we aren't, okay? Because he's co-head of the studio. He's made a lot of movies. He understands this. But let's talk about the breakdown, okay? Like, look, there's generally a multiplier that gets used, okay? It's between like 2.5 and 4 times the production budget. So let's just kind of give an example. If a movie costs $100 million to produce and another $100 million to market, it might need around $400 million at the box office to break even. This figure is an estimate and can vary widely depending on the film's specific financial arrangements and its domestic versus international box office split. Factoring this into the $225 million production budget for Superman suggests a break-even box office range of approximately $562 million to, check this out, $900 million. Now, the movie is doing better domestically, so they get more of that. They have financial incentives from where they filmed the movie. Those tax incentives come in down the road. Warner Brothers can write off the marketing. You can write off all of that marketing. And if there is a loss, like their projections don't get met, in this case they have, or at least that we can more or less ascertain that they have, then they would be able to write down those losses as well. Okay, this is a business, they have a model, and this is what they're doing. So James Gunn saying anyone who thinks that doesn't understand how the business is working, that's a load of shit. Because people who pay attention to this stuff, even though I will call out the whole box office analysis thing as, the projections is pseudoscience and all of that kind of stuff here. The general rule of thumb is what I'm referring to here. And James Gunn coming out and trying to say that anyone who believes that doesn't understand the business, I think is wrong. Because if he knows more than what we know, then tell us. But he won't, because that will be something that's like a proprietary piece of information. It's like Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, Disney Plus. They'll never actually release the data that they have, cold, hard facts about what is watched, how it's watched, when it's watched, who watches it, the demographic, all that stuff. They have all that data locked down. But if they don't bring it up ever, that's being done not to keep us in the dark, but it is to protect their intellectual property. That is how they choose what to make. That is how they choose what what their investors will then invest into them as a result of this kind of stuff. Because Warner Brothers Netflix, all of these companies, all of these studios, they have the only thing that they have to be beholden to are the shareholders. That's it. They make stuff hoping that it does well and that we flock to it. But otherwise, man, it's about the money. And so, yes, this movie at its budget, needs to make a certain amount of money that it appears on the low end, it's already cleared that hurdle. But we don't have the fine-tuned data to know how much of a profit it is. We don't have the fine-tuned information to know how much of a loss it might be in other areas. Because, again, that 562, or that, that's a mixture of domestic and international. It's done better domestic, so that's going to lower that threshold. But still, when the financials come out, I think we're going to find out more. But what we're going to hear about now is how good Superman has sold on video on demand. And like I said, when those things hit, right, when those social media clips hit, which I guarantee you are already done and packaged and ready to go by all of the social media platforms that Warner Brothers works with. They've already got it. The team is already on it to flood the zone on Friday. You're going to start seeing it flood the zone on Thursday, because on Thursday is when you're going to start seeing more ads for it. And then you're probably going to see that it get leaked online. Right? Because now you're going to start seeing high quality clips from the movie that are going to be from the digital that isn't out yet because it got leaked online somewhere. I fervently believe that studios do this as a way to bolster attention on social media. And they're going to see if that's going to help kind of push it. And I think we're also getting ready for another heat wave in the country this weekend in some parts. We're in a heat wave right now in Washington. This weekend's supposed to rain, I guess. But still, that people are going to stay inside. So they're going to want to rent a movie. Either it's hot or it's wet. People are going to want to sit inside and watch a movie. And what better way to spend a solid Saturday with your family than sitting at home and watching a rented copy of Superman in your air-conditioned home with the snacks that you bought, not from the theater, that are at a massive markup. And that's what I'm talking about. This was a long rant. I do apologize for that. I'm not trying to denigrate anyone who thinks otherwise, but it really is the business is, it's a lot of stuff you got to kind of read between the lines on and whatnot. And I think more people need to do that. And unfortunately, James Gunn at this particular point is just lying to people. And that sucks. I wish he would just disengage. He needs to shut the fuck up, right? Let me know. Let me know what you think if he needs to shut the fuck up. So before we get into the final story, let's just take a quick break from our sponsor.
Hey, chat. Did you know that Hollywood After Dark is fan-funded by people like you?
If you want to give a big FUCKYU to the grifters, join Hollywood After Dark today.
Yes, you can't ever go wrong with Bigfoot and Polar Bear, right? Bigfoot and Polly. What could ever happen wrong with that? Thank you guys for being a sponsor of today's episode. I do appreciate it. All right, let's talk about the last little thing of the day, and that, of course, is Shrek 5. Okay, Shrek 5. This happened after I recorded yesterday, so I'm a little bit pissed off that it happened yesterday. But it's getting delayed. It's moving to summer 2027. Another Untitled Illumination event pick is going earlier. We don't know what that one is. But that's kind of sucks, doesn't it? Right? Why is that happening? Well, let's find out more, shall we? Universal Pictures said it's moving DreamWorks Animation's Shrek 5 from December 23rd, 2026 to Wednesday, June 30th, 2027. Essentially, the summer's best corridor. Essentially, the summer is the better. Oh, there should be a the there. Who wrote this article? Anthony. Goddamn, Anthony. Come on, man. Use GPT to fucking get your shit right. Essentially, the summer is the better corridor for the mega return of the green fairy tale ogre and friends. That's the season he's always dwelled well in. It will rep 17 years since the previous installment of Shrek Forever After in 2010. Yeah, Shrek Forever After is awesome, by the way. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. And then Universal also said today that an Untitled Illumination event movie is going earlier in 2027 from June 30th to April 16th. I have a feeling that's a Minions movie. It's either a Minions or I think it's a Minions. It's got to be a Minions. They just did Despicable Me 4. There's going to be another Minions movie. They want to make their money, and they want to make a lot of money in 2027. Those guys are going to be raking in the dough. But then there becomes a question of to why it's being moved. Obviously, they've been kind of mum on the situation. They haven't really said anything yet about that. And one of the things that I think might be the reason, well, this is a rumor. Okay, we're gonna touch upon a rumor of this. So there's a leaked plot that was getting out there a few months ago when the first teaser for Shrek 5 happened. And it says here that the movie reportedly centers on Shrek and Donkey being accidentally transported to the real world by Shrek and Fiona's daughter, who practices magic and is voiced by Zendaya. They must now find a way back to their fairy tale world since she doesn't know the return spell. The shift to a human world setting is a significant departure from the usual fantasy, obviously. Now, a lot of people ain't really happy about that because it seems kind of ridiculous. Okay, one of the things I think kills like the Smurfs movies is that idea that they always have to go into the real world. Okay, fuck that shit. Stop that shit. No one wants that shit. Okay, Shrek Forever After involved him going into a spell and going into a kind of an alternate dimension run by Rumpelstiltskin. If number 5 is a similar plot device, I think that's poor writing, and I don't think DreamWorks and Illumination is going to do that. Especially after how good The Last Wish was for Puss in Boots. Okay, there's a big fan of that franchise. There's a big fan base of that franchise that does not want to see it to do something inherently stupid. Now, what I think is not that they're trying to retool the animatics in 6 months. I don't think they can do it. And that is unless they use artificial intelligence, which they might already be doing. But I do think that they are probably wanting to fine-tune a couple things, make sure the animation is just right, and to make sure that they are coming out at a time when they know that they're going to dominate. Now, it's coming out in June. The first movie dropped in May of 2001. And then after that, all the other ones came out around the same time. And they all did very, very, very well. And that's basically what they want to do. Having it be a Christmas movie doesn't really make a lot of sense for that, for Shrek. It doesn't really feel like a Christmas movie. Plus, whatever else is coming out in December of 2026, I forget. Oh, yeah, Doomsday, right? Doomsday and Dune 3, by the way. So yeah, they probably, look, DreamWorks could have an animated movie do well during that time period and probably find a foothold against Avengers and find a foothold against Dune and whatever else is coming out, just like Puss in Boots The Last Wish did up against Avatar The Way of Water. By the way, fun fact about that, Puss in Boots The Last Wish also came out early on PVOD, and some of its segments ended up getting shared around so much on social media that it did start to bolster its theatrical returns up against Avatar. So DreamWorks knows how to market these movies in a way and to release these movies in a way that will go up against something else as a tentpole and make money off of it. But I don't think they want to try that with Doomsday, with Dune and Shrek. Yeah, they're kind of different, but it's still legacy. So they don't want to do that. They want to go to where it's a safe place. And I think that's going to be perfectly fine. I really hope the plot line, though, isn't what it is. I really, really, really hope that, because that's just going to be bunk and bad and crap and not a fan. Not a damn fan at all on that one. But I think that brings us to the end of the show, you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. Be sure to leave your comments below. I always want to hear them. I always want to know what you guys are thinking about. You guys can call in, remember, 323-400-4956. I'm going to get a better graphic. I just didn't get a chance to make one today. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Thank you all again for hanging out. Be sure to check back tonight for the live stream for the Hollywood After Dark show. There you go on that one there. All right, Hollywood After Dark, baby. All right, I'll see you all later. Have yourself a great day. Go watch a fucking movie, and peace the fuck out.